Have you ever let words slip from your mouth and instantly wished you could take them back? Like an arrow shot from a bow, once they're out, there's no retrieving them. Words have power. They can build bridges or burn them down in an instant. And the difference between wisdom and foolishness often comes down to what you choose to say, or not say at all. Think about the greatest minds in history. Did they speak without thought? Did they throw words around carelessly? Number. They understood that speech is a reflection of intellect, discipline, and self-respect. A fool speaks just to be heard. A wise person speaks only when it adds value. That's exactly what we're diving into today. The 6 things a truly intelligent person never says. These lessons are rooted in the timeless wisdom of Stoicism, a philosophy that teaches control over our emotions, reactions, and, most importantly, our words. Because the way you speak doesn't just affect how others see you. It shapes how you see yourself. Words are more than just sound. They are currency. Spend them recklessly, and you lose respect. Use them wisely, and you gain influence. Every time you open your mouth, you make a choice to sound thoughtful or thoughtless, to build credibility or destroy it. Imagine walking into a room full of people. You could blurt out whatever comes to mind, filling the air with noise. Or you could observe, listen, and when the right moment comes, say something that makes everyone stop and think. Which approach do you think earns more respect? Marcus Aurelius once said, "Think before you speak. Let your words be well considered, and your speech be measured." In a world where everyone is talking, the smartest people are the ones who know when to be silent. But this isn't just about sounding smart. It's about mastering your communication so that your words hold weight. It's about eliminating the careless phrases that make you look weak, insecure, or even arrogant. Whether you're in a meeting, talking to friends, or having a conversation with yourself in your own mind, these 6 phrases can either lift you up or drag you down. And here's the best part. By the end of this, you'll not only know what to avoid, but also understand how to replace weak words with strong ones. You'll walk away with a sharper mindset, more confidence, and a new awareness of the way you speak. Because the truth is, people don't respect noise. They respect clarity. They respect someone who speaks with intention. So get ready. This isn't just a lesson in speech. This is a lesson in power. The power to influence. The power to be taken seriously. The power to communicate with purpose. Let's dive in. 1. Smart people don't need to brag. Their actions speak for them. Have you ever met someone who just won't stop talking about how much they know? They drop big words, name-drop famous books, and remind everyone about their achievements. At first, it might seem impressive, but over time, it gets exhausting. Not because their knowledge isn't valuable, but because the way they deliver it feels more like a performance than a conversation. Stoicism teaches that true wisdom doesn't need a spotlight. Marcus Aurelius once said, "The fruit of this life is a good character and acts for the common good." Nature doesn't boast about creating mountains or oceans. It just exists in its full power. The same goes for intelligence. The more someone needs to prove they're smart, the more they reveal their insecurity. Let me tell you a story. I once knew a man named John, brilliant in his field, respected for his technical skills. In meetings and gatherings, he made sure everyone knew it. He talked about the projects he led, the awards he won, and the breakthroughs he made. At first, people listened. But then, something changed. Instead of admiration, he started receiving polite nods. Instead of engagement, people avoided deeper conversations with him. One day, a colleague told him the truth. "John, your knowledge is incredible, but the way you present it makes people feel small. That moment hit him hard. He realized that in trying to impress, he was pushing people away. And here's the truth. When you boast, you don't bring people closer. You create distance. You make others feel like they need to compete instead of connect. Instead of inspiring, you alienate. Instead of building respect, you create silent resentment. Some might argue, but if I don't talk about my skills, how will people know what I'm capable of? The answer is simple. Your work will speak for itself. Real intelligence doesn't demand attention. It naturally attracts it. Knowledge speaks, but wisdom listens, as Jimi Hendrix once said. If you're truly great at something, people will recognize it through your actions, not your words. Think about the people you respect the most. Are they the ones constantly talking about themselves? Or are they the ones who, when they speak, make others feel valued? The smartest people understand that listening is more powerful than speaking. In fact, silence itself is a sign of confidence. A fool talks to impress. A wise person listens to understand. John learned this lesson the hard way. Slowly, he stopped trying to be the loudest voice in the room. He started asking questions instead of waiting for his turn to talk. He began paying attention to what others had to say, rather than using conversations as a stage for himself. And something interesting happened. People started seeking him out. Not just because he was intelligent, but because he was someone worth talking to. Someone who made others feel heard, rather than overshadowed. Stoicism reminds us that the goal of knowledge isn't to boost our ego. It's to serve others. When you share what you know in a way that uplifts rather than dominates, you don't just gain respect. You build meaningful relationships. The difference between arrogance and wisdom is simple. One speaks to impress. The other speaks to impact. So ask yourself, when you talk, do people lean in? Or do they tune out? Do your words build connections? Or do they create distance? The answer to that will determine not just how others see you, but how much power your words truly hold. 2. Wise minds. Listen. Foolish ones. Shut the door. Too soon. Have you ever spoken up in a conversation only to have your opinion dismissed before you could even explain it? It's frustrating. It makes you feel small, as if your thoughts don't matter. And the worst part? You start doubting yourself. Was my idea really that bad? Am I not making sense? I know that feeling all too well, not just because I've experienced it, but because I've been the one causing it. Early in my leadership role, I prided myself on making quick, confident decisions. One day, during a meeting, a colleague suggested a new way to improve our workflow. Without hesitation, I shut it down. "That won't work," I said, moving on to the next topic, thinking I just saved everyone time. What I didn't notice in that moment was the sudden shift in the room, the quiet glances exchanged, the energy that seemed to drain from the conversation. No one challenged me, but no one was excited to contribute either. After the meeting, a trusted colleague pulled me aside and said, "You know, that idea wasn't as bad as it first sounded. Maybe you should have let them finish." That single comment hit me like a ton of bricks. I had been so focused on proving my expertise that I forgot the real purpose of discussion: to explore, to refine, to learn. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "You cannot learn what you think you already know." That was my mistake. By dismissing someone else's idea too quickly, I wasn't just shutting down one suggestion. I was shutting down trust, creativity, and the possibility of something better than what I already knew. Some people think listening means agreeing, but it doesn't. Listening means respecting. It means being open to the idea that there might be another way, a better way. Even if an idea seems flawed at first, it might contain a seed of something great, something that with a little refinement could change everything. And if nothing else, Hearing someone out shows that you value them as a thinker, as a person. Here's something to think about. How many times have breakthroughs come from ideas that seemed ridiculous at first? When the Wright brothers told people they were working on a flying machine, they were laughed at. When Einstein introduced relativity, many dismissed it as nonsense. The greatest ideas in history were often ignored, ridiculed, or shut down before they were finally understood. Imagine how much human progress would have been lost if people had stopped listening too soon. The Stoics teach humility, and part of humility is realizing that you are not the sole owner of truth. Dismissing others outright is, at its core, an act of arrogance, assuming that your perspective is superior, that your knowledge is complete. But no one person holds all the answers. True intelligence comes from collaboration, from collecting different viewpoints, and from allowing your own ideas to evolve through discussion. After that wake-up call, I changed my approach. Instead of shutting down ideas quickly, I started asking questions. I gave people space to explain their thoughts fully. And something remarkable happened. The atmosphere in our meetings changed. People who once stayed silent started speaking up. Even the quietest voices had something valuable to contribute. And the results? We found solutions I would never have thought of alone. Dismissing others isn't just a bad habit. It's a barrier to growth. It stops innovation in its tracks. When you close your ears, you close the door to endless possibilities. On the other hand, when you listen, when you open your mind even to ideas that seem strange at first, you invite new insights, stronger relationships, and real breakthroughs. In the end, wisdom isn't about proving you're right. It's about recognizing that everyone carries a piece of the truth. And the more pieces you collect, the clearer the bigger picture becomes. 3. Complainers stay stuck. Doers change the game. We all know someone like Peter, the guy who always has something to complain about. His job, his coworkers, the traffic, the weather, even the coffee machine that never seems to work. At first, people listen. They nod. They sympathize. Maybe even offer a few solutions. But as time goes on, the complaints don't stop. They become a constant, draining force that makes every conversation feel heavy. Eventually, people start avoiding Peter. Not because they don't care, but because they just can't take the negativity anymore. One day, during lunch, a friend looked him in the eye and asked, "Peter, I get that you're frustrated, but what are you doing to fix these problems?" That question hit him harder than he expected. He wasn't actually looking for solutions. He was just venting, dumping his frustration onto others without any real direction. And worst of all, his own words were making him feel even more stuck, more helpless. This is the trap so many people fall into. Complaining can feel good in the moment, like letting off steam. But when it becomes a habit, it starts to poison everything. Marcus Aurelius once said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." But most people do the opposite. They focus on what they can't change instead of what they can. They let frustration run their mouths instead of using that energy to improve their situation. Some might argue, but what if something is truly unfair? Shouldn't I speak up? And the answer is yes. But there's a difference between complaining and taking action. Complaints without direction are just noise. But complaints with purpose? That's how revolutions start. Intelligent people don't waste time grumbling about things they can't control. They either change what they can or accept what they can't and move forward. Think about it. Complaining about traffic won't clear the roads. Complaining about the rain won't stop the storm. But adjusting your mindset? That's where real power lies. The Stoics teach that every problem carries a lesson. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" ask, "What can I learn from this?" Instead of groaning about your commute, use that time to listen to an audiobook or reflect on your day. Instead of venting about a tough boss, think about how you can navigate the situation strategically. Peter eventually took his friend's words to heart. He started catching himself before he complained, asking, "Is this something I can fix?" If the answer was yes, he focused on a solution. If the answer was no, he let it go. Instead of whining about his manager, he started offering well-thought-out suggestions. Instead of cursing at traffic, he used the time to learn something new. And something interesting happened. His relationships improved, his influence at work grew, and people started enjoying being around him again. When you stop complaining without purpose, you take back control. You stop letting your frustrations define you, and you start shaping your own reality. Your words are powerful. They can either trap you in negativity or push you toward growth. The choice is always yours. At the end of the day, people respect problem solvers, not complainers. So the next time you feel like venting, pause and ask yourself, am I looking for a solution, or am I just spreading negativity? Because the way you answer that question will determine whether you stay stuck or move forward. 4. Your word is your bond. Don't break it. A promise is not just a sentence. It's a contract, a handshake without paper, a bond without ink. When you make a promise, you create an expectation. And when you break it, even unintentionally, you chip away at something far more valuable than the promise itself: trust. Yet, how often do people make commitments they can't keep? "I'll be there. I'll take care of it. I won't forget." Words come easily, but actions, they tell the real story. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Let your words be plain and true." Because in the end, it's not how much you say that matters. It's how much of it you actually mean. Consider Greg, a well-meaning professional balancing work, family, and endless responsibilities. He wasn't careless, just stretched thin. He promised his team he'd review reports by Monday. He assured his wife he'd be home for dinner. He told his kids he'd make it to their school events. But time and time again, he fell short. At first, people forgave him. He was busy, after all. But as the pattern repeated, frustration grew. His team stopped trusting his deadlines. His family stopped believing his words. And one evening, after missing yet another family dinner, he found a note from his teenage daughter on his desk. It read, "We just want you to mean it when you say it." That single sentence cut deeper than any argument ever could. Greg realized something painful. His promises had become empty. Not because he was dishonest, but because he spoke without thinking. His good intentions didn't matter. His actions did. This is the mistake so many make, thinking that saying yes keeps people happy. But a broken promise disappoints more than an honest no. When you commit to something without being sure you can follow through, you're not helping. You're setting yourself up to disappoint. Some might say, "But I don't want to let people down. Isn't it better to try?" No, it's better to be real. Before you make a promise, pause. Ask yourself, do I actually have the time, energy, and ability to do this? If the answer is uncertain, be honest. Say, "I'll try my best, but I can't guarantee it." People respect honesty more than empty words. The smartest people follow a simple rule: under-promise and over-deliver. If Greg had told his team he needed 3 days but delivered in 2, they would have been impressed instead of frustrated. If he had told his family, "I might be late, but I'll make it up to you," they would have felt valued instead of ignored. Reliability isn't about doing the impossible. It's about aligning your words with your actions. And if you do break a promise, own it. No excuses, no long explanations, just a simple, "I should have managed that better. I won't make the same mistake again." Accountability repairs trust faster than explanations ever will. Greg took this lesson seriously. He became mindful of his words, saying no when necessary, and ensuring his yes actually meant something. Over time, his relationships improved. His team trusted him again. His family no longer doubted his presence. And something else changed. He felt lighter. There was a peace that came with knowing his words carried weight. He no longer had to scramble to make up for broken promises. He just followed through. In the end, avoiding empty promises isn't about being perfect. It's about being real. When your words and actions align, you don't just earn respect, you build something even more valuable: trust. Because at the end of the day, people won't remember the promises you made. They'll remember the ones you kept. 5. The strong admit mistakes. The weak cover them up. Have you ever felt that admitting a mistake is like handing people a weapon to use against you? That if you own up to it, they'll see you as weak, unreliable, or incapable? I used to think that too, until one moment changed everything. A few years ago, I was leading a major project under a tight deadline. In my rush to get things done, I overlooked a critical detail in a report. That mistake trickled down, causing my entire team to face criticism from upper management. When it came to light, my first instinct was to shield myself. I wanted to blame the workload, the timeline, anything but myself. But deep down, I knew the truth. And I knew that deflecting responsibility wouldn't undo the damage. So instead of making excuses, I did something unexpected. At our next meeting, I took a deep breath, admitted my mistake, and apologized to my team. More importantly, I explained the steps I was taking to make sure it never happened again. And then, something even more unexpected happened. No one looked down on me. No one called me incompetent. In fact, my colleagues respected me more. Some even thanked me for taking responsibility instead of passing the blame. That day, I realized something important. Owning up to your mistakes doesn't weaken you. It makes you stronger. Marcus Aurelius once said, "If someone is able to show me my mistake, I will gladly change. For I seek the truth, and the truth has never harmed anyone." That's the essence of wisdom, to value truth over ego, growth over pride. Yet, most people do the opposite. They fear being judged, so they hide their mistakes. They act as if denial will erase the problem. But here's the truth. Denying a mistake doesn't protect your reputation. It destroys it. Think about the people you respect the most. Are they the ones who never admit when they're wrong? Or are they the ones who own their faults, learn from them, and come back stronger? When someone refuses to acknowledge their mistakes, they don't look confident. They look fragile. Because real strength isn't about pretending to be perfect. It's about having the courage to face imperfection and fix it. Some might say, "But what if people judge me? What if I lose their trust?" The real question is, do you think people trust someone who dodges responsibility? Or do they trust someone who faces the truth, even when it's uncomfortable? Admitting a mistake doesn't make you less capable. It makes you more reliable. It proves that you're someone who cares more about getting things right than just looking right. So how do you handle mistakes the right way? Start with self-awareness. When something goes wrong, resist the urge to point fingers. Ask yourself, what was my role in this? Even if your share of the blame is small, taking responsibility is the first step toward fixing it. And don't just apologize. Take action. Show through your decisions that you're committed to learning and improving. Stoic philosophy teaches that mistakes aren't failures. They're lessons. Every misstep is a chance to grow stronger, sharper, and wiser. The people who embrace their errors don't just improve themselves, they inspire those around them to do the same. So the next time you mess up, don't hide, don't deflect, don't waste time protecting your pride. Pause, take responsibility, and prove through your actions that you're not just someone who talks about growth, you live it. Because in the end, it's not perfection that earns respect. It's the courage to admit your mistakes and the wisdom to never make the same one twice. 6. Keep your plans quiet. Let your actions do the talking. We all know someone who talks endlessly about their big plans, how they're going to start a business, write a book, get in shape, or finally make that bold move. They share every little detail, telling anyone who will listen. But months later, nothing has changed. The big plans remain just that, plans. Why does this happen? Because talking about your goals can give you a false sense of accomplishment. The praise, the encouragement, the admiration from others. It tricks your brain into thinking you've already achieved something. And once that satisfaction sets in, the urgency to actually do the work fades. The Stoics understood this well. Marcus Aurelius warned, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one." In other words, don't just talk, act. The more you broadcast your intentions, the more you drain the energy needed to execute them. Take Jim, for example. A well-meaning guy with big ambitions, he was always talking about what he was going to do. He promised to help a friend move, committed to extra projects at work, and swore he'd make it to every community event. His default response was always the same: "Count me in." But life got busy. Responsibilities piled up. And before he knew it, he was forgetting half the things he said he'd do. One day, a close friend invited him to an important family dinner. Jim enthusiastically agreed, as always. But when the night came, he completely forgot, double booking himself with a work meeting instead. The next day, his friend told him how disappointed their family was. That was the moment it hit him. His words, meant to be reassuring, were doing more harm than good. His constant oversharing and overcommitting had turned his promises into empty words. People no longer saw him as reliable. They saw him as someone who said things just to sound agreeable. This is a trap many fall into, talking too much about the future instead of focusing on the present. Oversharing can make you feel like you're making progress, but in reality, it only sets you up for disappointment. It creates expectations in the minds of others, and when you don't follow through, your credibility takes a hit. Some might argue, but isn't sharing your plans a good thing? Doesn't it keep you accountable? Only if it's done wisely. Talking about goals with a trusted mentor or a close friend can help, but constantly announcing them to the world can backfire, because the more you talk, the less you act. So, what's the right approach? First, pause before making commitments. When someone asks for your time or energy, don't automatically say yes. Take a moment to consider if you can realistically follow through. If you can't, it's better to be honest up front than to disappoint later. People respect a clear no far more than a half-hearted yes. Next, prioritize quality over quantity. It's better to make fewer promises and actually keep them than to agree to everything and let people down. When you commit to something, do it with intention. Follow through not because you said you would, but because it aligns with who you are. Most importantly, let your actions do the talking. If you're working on something big, stay quiet and let progress speak for itself. When you finally achieve it, people will notice, without you having to announce it. Jim eventually learned this lesson. Instead of saying yes to everything, he became selective with his commitments. He stopped making casual promises just to please people and focused on delivering on the ones that truly mattered. Over time, his relationships improved. People no longer saw him as the guy who talked big but never followed through. They saw him as someone they could actually rely on. The Stoics teach that words shape how others see us, but more importantly, they shape how we see ourselves. Every time you say something and don't follow through, you weaken your own trust in yourself. But when you align your words with your actions, you build confidence, not just in the eyes of others, but within your own mind. So the next time you feel the urge to talk about your future plans, stop and ask yourself, do I really need to say this? Or should I just focus on getting it done? Because in the end, it's not the promises you make that define you, it's the results you deliver. If this wisdom resonated with you, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss new insights. If you're on this journey of growth, let me know in the comments by saying, "I love this wisdom." Your engagement helps build this community of like-minded thinkers, and together we can keep learning and evolving. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.